Agree.
So let me start off this stream by acknowledging that I should have never doubted Weili. Let's put that out there first before we get into anything else. I have to reflect on how foolish I was personally, having already made a fantasy matchup prediction where I took Weili. Already made statements on 2 other videos where I picked Weili. And at the last minute, on the day of the fight, I admit I was somewhat influenced by other people's takes, but the fact is, there was no crazy takes. No matter what fighter you picked, I think there was a reasonable reason why. There's a logical reason why you picked Suarez, or if you pick Weili. Because we did not know if Weili could out-wrestle Suarez. Most of us doubted that. And we had good reason to. We're like, hey, if you can't out-wrestle Rose, yeah, you out-wrestle Carla, but she's small. She's really atom weight. Suarez out-wrestled Carla. No big deal. But if Rose can keep you down, if Zhang can take you down, most likely Suarez will. But that didn't happen. Why? There was a theme throughout the fight, and it was Weili's athleticism, just like I thought. And if you don't believe me, reflect on this moment right here. As some Redditors also pointed out, and I said this during the fight, I'm like, there's the athleticism that I was talking about. Didn't y'all think Weili was about to go down here? Suarez tried like 3 or 4 times, didn't she? And failed each time. I'm like, how is Weili staying on one foot? How is she not being taken down here? Athleticism. Weili has freaky athleticism. And it helped her to overcome Suarez Olympic wrestling. So now, while I may have gotten this prediction wrong, I feel like a winner for having been correct back before I was incorrect. So now, and shut up, I don't want to hear it. I can take that credit and be happy about it. That once upon a time, I predicted this exact outcome. And I even still spoke on this outcome when I took Suarez. I said on that video where I made a thumbnail where I put "and new," I explained on that video, Weili's athleticism might be enough to offset Suarez wrestling. Because Suarez is gangly, she's not as athletic. Nowhere near as athletic as Weili. I mean, are you kidding? So, I usually don't go over the fight round by round. But I think it's important to do that with this fight. Because Suarez, the failure of Suarez wrestling started to reveal itself slowly over the duration of the entire fight. Suarez had Weili down within the first minute of the fight. And she was in full side control. So as you can imagine, Weili was on her back for a long time. But at the end of the round, towards the end of the round, Weili was on top. She got out of side control, survived it, and ended up on top. How? She's athletic. Y'all see what I'm talking about? Her body sometimes move like she don't got bones in her body. It's like, what are you made of, rubber? So she twists literally like a Twizzler, gets out of side control, which was really like a crucifix position, ends up on top of Suarez. The round ends with Weili on top of Suarez. Weili postures up and Suarez smiles. As if to say, ha ha, yeah, good one. You ended up on top, but you saw how powerful my wrestling is. I got you down within the first minute of the fight and had you in all kinds of trouble. That's how I took that grin from Suarez after the first round ended. So, the second round starts, and Weili ends up on top. Weili starts to dominate Suarez in the wrestling department. Throughout the whole fight, she was already dominating Suarez on the feet as we expected. No surprise there. But the first round was not a fluke. That's what we started to realize by the second round. After the second round ended, I know y'all remember. After the second round ended, the vibe was like, uh-oh, Weili might be the better wrestler. She proved in that first round, in the second round, that the first round was not a fluke. I can deal with Suarez wrestling. Just keep watching. And third round, fourth round, fifth round. With each passing round, eventually we were like, can Suarez survive? Because she does not have an advantage on the ground. She's being taken down. People, Lord, Suarez was being taken down. Now you see the thumbnail that I made. That's the best thumbnail I ever made for this video right here. It's live stream right here. Weili had almost all of the control time by the end of the round. Almost all of the control time was on Weili's side by the end of the fight. By the end of the fight. But the difference is that Weili's control time was not whole time. She beat on Suarez the whole time. That's what made Weili's wrestling superior. Superior because Weili beats on her opponents when she has them down probably more than any other fighter. She like almost never forgets to beat on her opponents when there's a chance to. Suarez misses a lot of that opportunity because she's not as athletic. She can't contort her body where she can posture in a position to land shots as often, even though Suarez does very good ground and pound. Weili's is crazier, in my opinion. Weili can be in the most awkward positions and still be able to land ground and pound in their hard shots. The damage that Suarez suffered to her face, a lot of it came from that ground and pound. I remember, and I know y'all do too, while Suarez was on her back, Weili was in full mount and she was beating on Suarez with these type of shovel hooks. And one of those punches opened Suarez up. Suarez started leaking from one of those ground and pound pity pat punches. Why? Because they wasn't pity pat punches at all. She was clobbering Suarez, and Suarez did not like it. Weili may not have been getting a lot of range of motion on those punches. She may not have put her body behind them, but it didn't matter. The weight of Weili's arm, her fat forearms, Weili's fat biceps and triceps was enough. Yeah? The weight in her arm was enough to cause a lot of damage and to make those shots during ground and pound significant, man. Some of those shots were so hard, honestly, you had to call some of them power shots. You landing those pity pat shots and they actually cause damage, swell your opponent's eye, open your opponents up and have them leaking, that may as well be a power shot. It's causing damage, right? Literally, Weili got credited in this fight for inflicting damage while she was on the ground in full mount throwing pity pat, shovel, half blocked, half deflected punches with poor range of motion. Crazy display of athleticism in this fight, and I just don't want nobody to miss it. On the feet, Suarez was getting battered. Just battered. She was getting hit with flush shots. Like, those shots were landing flush on Suarez's jaw. So she has a chin on her. She has a chin. Like this shot, for example. Okay? This is the same sequence. Here's the punch. It hasn't landed yet. Here's after it landed. She landed shots. She was landing shots flush on Suarez. This Weili dominated every department of this fight. Not only the ground, not only the stand-up, but also the clinch. Weili dominated the clinches. Stuffed numerous takedowns, reversed, rejected all night. Got out of them got out of almost pretty much everything Suarez tried to do. Weili had an answer for. Oh, how foolish I was for doubting Weili Zhang. How foolish I was. I have been one of the content creators to say positive things about Weili that you may have never heard anybody else say. So it was less likely for me to doubt Weili, but even I doubted her. Well, not no more. I mean, why wouldn't you take her over Verna? Why wouldn't you? Who's going to pick Verna is my question. Anybody got Verna in this fight? Does anybody suspect that Verna is now second guessing her chances? I do. Because remember what happens when you lose fights. When you lose fights, other fighters start wanting to fight you, like with Valentina Shevchenko. Before her dust up with Grasso, nobody, I'm saying straight up, nobody wanted smoke with Bullet. Like, nah, listen, girls was taking vacations. They was making a decision to become married and have weddings just to avoid fighting Valentina. When you have that aura of invincibility, it helps you so much. But when you lose it, them fighters are after your neck. That's why no matter how many fights Weili wins, she's always going to have fighters who say, I want a piece of her. I want a piece of her. Because again, like I said in the first video, when you lose once, fighters never forget it. And I'm telling you, they put your losses under a microscope. They don't like to admit it. They like to say, oh, I never watched film on that fighter. I just pick it up and no, you don't. They put their opponent's losses under a microscope. I'm telling you, when they watch film on their opponent, they even study their opponent's facial expressions to find out what really makes their opponents uncomfortable. They know their opponents through and through by the time they're in the cage with them, even though really a lot about their mindset. But it's looking like with Weili, she's turning the tables on that. She is on another undefeated streak where she's looking like, ain't nobody gonna whoop her. She a better wrestler than Tatiana Suarez. Process that. She a better striker than Yan Xiaonan, than Amanda. Process that. Now you're about to hear talks of Rose coming back down to strawweight. I bet you anything. Already, Rose is licking her chops. I can guarantee she thinking about it right now. I'll go back to strawweight, take my belt back. Sit there and struggle at flyweight. Why? You about to get slapped around by them girls up there, Rose. You already know it. You already lost. You already lost at flyweight. You ain't doing much more at flyweight. The biggest noise Rose can make is to go back and beat Weili. Because right now, Weili is looking unbeatable. My goodness. Okay? Just like with any other fighter. After they win, it's time to reevaluate them. Every fight that a fighter has, especially with champions, is significant. It's significant. That's why fighters are so against reporters trying to get them to look past their current opponents. Many fighters look at that as disrespectful because it's so significant. Look at all the fighters Weili has dominated aside from Rose at this point. It's pretty epic. Okay? But for her to look as bad as, I'm talking about Weili, for Weili to look as bad as she did against Rose, but yet to look as good as she did against Suarez, shows Weili's improvement, her ability to make improvements, which is unusual. It's unusual. That's just what it is. Most fighters get stuck in their ways. Most fighters get locked into a pattern. Even when they practice new stuff in training, once the fight starts, they revert back to their natural selves. A lot of trainers will tell you that. There are some exceptions. Weili seems to be one of those exceptions. I tell you who else seemed like one of those exceptions? Wayne Kong. Wasn't that a totally different Wayne Kong? A patient Wayne Kong, calculated Wayne Kong, not a reckless, baloney-brained Wayne Kong like we saw in that her most recent fight. So, Yan Xiaonan is another fighter who showed a lot of improvements. Might be a cultural thing where those Chinese athletes, there's so much pressure on their athletes to be perfect that they, are more likely to make improvements. But wow, there were people who had Suarez as the favorite in this fight, going into this fight. No doubt based on Weili's challenges with wrestlers. Who's going to have Werner as the favorite going into that fight after this fight? My guess is very few. I am not picking Werner. I made this mistake already, okay? I was the one up here talking about, hey, Weili is too freaky for Suarez. This is what I said years ago on the original fantasy breakdown. Like, yeah, Suarez is a better wrestler, but I was talking about how Weili's added athleticism makes her a superior wrestler to Suarez. Y'all might remember I talked about Weili's fight against Jessica Aguilar. Excuse me. Go back and watch that fight, where Weili uses the entirety of her body to get takedowns, where she's using her weight to her advantage to use takedowns. At one point, it looked like her body was almost horizontal with the canvas while still on her feet. Again, go back and watch that fight. It's the takedown before the stoppage, if I'm not mistaken. Suarez is not athletic like that. She's just not. Honestly, Suarez seems clumsy. She seems like a, naturally clumsy girl because of how she's put together. Whereas Weili seems like the opposite. Like she came out of the womb doing backflips. Being naturally athletic because she's already put together that way. Whereas Suarez, her knowledge of wrestling, her experience in wrestling hid how clumsy and unathletic she is. And I think that helped Weili a whole lot. That helped her a whole lot in this fight to survive and dominate Suarez's wrestling skills. We already knew she was a better striker. And she was in there punching and kicking Suarez all night. But control time for Weili was not hold time. She beat on Suarez the whole time. How will Suarez respond to this is my question. How will she respond to this? Honestly, she shouldn't have gotten this title shot. As many of us know, she shouldn't have gotten it. And again, don't forget about Carla. She, dominated Carla's wrestling. Even Amanda Lemos. Lemos not that bad on the ground. It's like, okay. Now what are fighters going to do now? They're going to stop trying to say, excuse me, they're going to stop thinking that the key is to take Weili down. Fighters still think Weili is at heart a striker. Oh, I'll just take her down. No, that's a bad idea. At this point, that's probably something you shouldn't do. But you probably shouldn't strike with her either. So what you gonna do? Being in the clinches with Weili is even dangerous. A lot of those shots that Suarez ate came from her in the clinches, being so close to Weili. I don't know why she was doing that anyway. She within inches of Weili getting shot, eating shots, having her head snap back, snap to the side. So in the clinches, on the mat, on the feet, Weili is terrible. Terrible. So who's going to beat her? That's the question at this point. She has reached the point of us asking who can beat her once again. I just want people to stay mindful of that. We are now in a phase of her reign as champion where we're asking who can beat her. The only person people is going to name, I guarantee you, is Rose. And you watch Rose come back to 115. Now, with that said, Weili has already been talking about fighting Shevchenko. Shevchenko has a fight already scheduled against Manon. So we don't know about that. Manon might take that belt. But at this point, strawweight, there's not much excitement. It's starting to make sense for Weili to challenge Valentina Shevchenko. If Valentina wins, there's not many people gonna get excited about Verna. That's why Suarez replaced Verna. Yeah. I believe they wanted to give Weili a higher quality opponent for having her wait so long for an opponent, right? And I think Suarez pulled out or something goofy happened. But people are not excited about Verna. So, yeah, the fight might happen. But I think a big reason why Weili's talked about fighting Shevchenko is because Weili herself is not excited about fighting Verna. But when you're in that mindset, when you're not looking, when you're looking at an opponent the way she might be looking at Verna, those be the opponents sometimes that end up beating you, taking your belt. But I'm sure her team won't let her think like that. We'll see what happens. I'm almost wishing that, the fight does happen. More than anything, I'm wishing that somebody makes it up. More fighters make it up through the rankings and make for an interesting opponent for Weili. Because we're getting to that point where she is wiping out all the contenders, all the potential opponents, getting beaten up bad. This was a bad, demoralizing beating for Suarez. Suarez, going forward, cannot say that she has the best wrestling. She cannot say that her wrestling is second to none, like she was saying before this fight. She was saying that. This fight did not play out where Weili kept the fight standing and won the fight standing, while Suarez won the moments on the mat. After fights like that, Suarez could still say, I'm still the best wrestler. She can't even say that no more. So, what is she going to say? What is she going to do? What's she going to tell herself? Is she going to say, I can get better? Really? Been fighting since 3 years old. Can she really get better? Or is Weili just better? I'm thinking she might come to the realization of the latter. Be like, look, this is one champion I don't think I can beat. I can't beat her. I had her right where I wanted her, and she escaped and dominated me the rest of the fight. Suarez really didn't have no moments after the first round. I mean, dude, don't overlook the magnitude of that. In the first round, she had Weili right where she wanted her. And Weili escaped, reversed the tide, and was on top. And was never subjected to Suarez ever again in the fight, despite the fact that they went to the ground several more times. All subsequent times they went on the ground, advantage Weili. That's crazy. Suarez, I expect you to speak on this, on how crazy of an opponent is you just fought. Don't come back with your ego. Tatiana, let me jump on your case. Let me jump on Tatiana's case before it even happened. Do not come with your ego. I want to hear you talk about how insane of a champion this is. Because we all thought you had better wrestling, Tatiana. Even Chael thought she would dominate Weili. A bunch of people thought she was the favorite for a reason. We all reflected on Weili's troubles, the challenges she faced from wrestlers in the past. And you just experienced firsthand your wrestling fail multiple times. Do you think anybody's going to beat Weili? Tatiana? I feel like Tatiana is better qualified at this point to tell all of us how difficult it is to beat Weili than any of Weili's past opponents. I think big reason why Suarez is so confident before this fight is because she understood that Weili had not faced as good of a wrestler as she is. Was it Rose, Lemos? None of those fighters were the caliber of wrestler as Suarez is. But now after the fight is over, that don't matter. We just all found that out. It don't matter. Her wrestling is better than Suarez's. Okay, so at that point, Weili seems like a character that was made on a video game, right? Yeah, let me get better wrestling than Suarez. Let me get better striking than Yan Xiaonan. Better striking than Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Better striking than Rose. Remember, a lot of people think Weili beat Rose in the rematch. Let's not forget about that. A lot of people thought Weili won, and she actually did win the moments on the feet against Rose in that rematch. So, yeah, better striking than Rose. Better striking than Joanna. Better striking, yeah. So it's going to take an awkward, unorthodox, unusual fighter to beat Weili. It's going to have to be something like real awkward about them. Something about how they move or something. It's just hard to imagine somebody putting in more work, more training, having more experience in striking and in wrestling. Harder to imagine a fighter being able to learn or being as open to learn or able to learn and make improvements as Weili. You know, she might be an anomaly. One of those rare athletes that you get once in a generation. So just be ready for that. Don't be surprised if it happened. This might be she might currently be on a historic win streak in title reign. And honestly, in this division, she's already had a historic title reign, right? How many title defenses is that so far? I'm about to look it up right now. I mean, Joanna only had, I don't want to say only 6 title defenses. No, it was 5. Joanna had 5 title defenses. I don't want to say that only 5 title. That's a lot of title defenses. But I don't think it's that many title defenses, right? That's not an impossible number to beat. No way. Okay, now let's navigate real quick through Weili's record just to quickly count her number of defenses. She got the title back. Yeah, it's only 3 defenses. 4 defenses. Sorry about that. 4 defenses. She still gets credited for the first fight with Joanna. You know, that's still on her record as a title defense, right? But maybe that only counts for her first title reign. I don't know how they judge that. You know, will she go down as having defended her belt certain times during one reign and at certain times during another reign, or what? But that was her 3rd title defense. Well, wait a minute. Carla. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So 2 more, she'll match Joanna's record, and 3 more, she'll break it. It looks like she's on the path to break it. That's what it's looking like. And that's not a bad resume. That's not a bad resume, folks. Suarez, Zhang, Lemos, Sparza, Joanna twice, lost to Rose twice. See, that right there, that's giving Rose all kinds of confidence. That has her head so gassed. That's the only blemish on Weili's record. Is both Rose fights back to back. Even though, again, a lot of people thought, did she beat Rose in the rematch? But that's still her only kryptonite that people can even look at as a kryptonite. Would Rose be willing to do that? I suspect she's having problems making 115. Like, it's real uncomfortable. And by the time she gets to 115, I don't know, she's worn out. She's not as good as she feels at flyweight. She might not be as good if she does come back down to 115 to challenge. And even if Rose does, do you think she'd stay to defend the belt? So that might not even happen. Rose coming back down 115 might not even happen. Even though that's probably a smart decision for her. So, yeah, man. Yeah, that is a 5-fight win streak. Okay, let's not overlook that. It may be 3 defenses, but that's a 5-fight win streak. That's difficult for anybody to get who is at the top of the division. You know what I'm saying? The most recent, I think, who is it? Verna might be the only one with a longer win streak. Like, does the champion have a longer win streak than it? Yeah. Weili, not only the champion, but is sitting on the longest win streak in the division, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. Anybody find anything else, or anybody who has a longer win streak, let me know. So, difficult fighter. You know, these girls at 115 gonna have a hard time they're going to have a hard time beating Weili. That's just what it is. That is just what it is. Take a look at the rankings here. Suarez was the number 1 challenger. I wouldn't be surprised if she's at number 2 now. I don't think that performance was, good enough for her to stay at number 1. Talking about Tatiana Suarez. And I wouldn't be surprised if they moved Weili up in the pound for pound rankings. That would not surprise me either. After that performance, would not surprise me, because another notch, another name on Weili's resume, and she has a longer win streak currently than Valentina. There it is. There's an argument for Weili as the number 1 pound for pound fighter, not Valentina. So we'll see what happens with that. But if Weili's matched up against Verna, who's after that? Are we going to see Mackenzie Dern fight for the strap? I think a fight against Luciendo is inevitable. I think that's inevitable. But she needs another 1 or 2 victories, Luciendo. But maybe not. She might only need 1. With the way it's looking, Weili's wiping everybody out. And we can't say that about Valentina. Not no more. Back when Shevchenko was the number 1 pound for pound, it was the opposite. Weili had the belt but hadn't fought that many people in the division. Whereas Shevchenko had wiped out like all the top 6. Top 5, top 6. She had whooped everybody at the top of the division. Now it's the other way around. So why wouldn't Weili now be the number 1 pound for pound fighter? So yeah, things are moving along. And I'm just trying to help people to not miss it. See, a lot of people got a lot to say about this fight. I haven't used any videos in this stream, so the chat room should stay visible during the recording. So be sure to check that out. And I'm going to end this stream here and see y'all on the next.